You know, it's been a while since I've done one of these, ladies and gentlemen. I know a lot of people wondered about creepypastas, and ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you right now, they are as back as they've always been. Sometimes you need to take away from something to keep it kind of fresh, and you need to reattack these situations yet again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry I'm not so terribly consistent with these. I've taken a new mentality to doing this kind of stuff, a little bit of a quality over quantity, and looking at things I'm more so interested in rather than a creepypasta of the week type deal. So while these videos might still be a little far and few between, they are still always a part of this channel, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring you right back to the creepypasta land with one of the most infamous creepypastas that exist out there. One that I never done before, just due to the sheer fact that at the time, you needed to attack this thing in a much different way. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the creepypasta that I'm focusing on is known as the Grifter, a video that we actually saw on last week's deep web browsing video. Now, the fact that we've seen it, and ever since then, I was actually really interested in covering the story entirely. So, we're going to have to look at this in multiple different facets. We're going to have to see just where it's from, the source, really what this entire video is about yet again, and a little bit of this entire creepypasta just in the after years. One of the original locations that you can look into it, the Creepypasta Wiki for example, really had a shortened version of this entire story anyways. It mentioned the Grifter as an alleged video that was first mentioned somewhere on 4chan's X image board. Watching it is said to be a soul-rending experience. We'd seen this video and our souls were not rended. Far more horrible than anything one could imagine. The image on the right is said to contain screenshots of some of the scenes in the video. The few that have watched it are said to have been killed in their own homes, with one thing in common, a strange doll, hidden somewhere in their homes. I can tell you one thing, I'd never seen a doll after I'd watched that. There is a message by the end of the video in the constructed international auxiliary language Esperanto, and says, "This child, now a young man, is still alive and lives in a local shelter whose name was not given. He never spoke, and still is catatonic." I assume that's catatonic. Ladies and gentlemen, that was about the entire Grifter creepypasta. It's a pretty popular creepypasta. It's very much one of the, I guess you could say, the creepypasta main zeitgeist, so to speak. But is it ultimately a great one? Ladies and gentlemen, that will have to go to the 4chan X board. Now, for those of you who don't know about 4chan's X board, 4chan's X board is known as paranormal. 4chan has many threads. You've got random, you've got politically incorrect, you've got My Little Pony, and ladies and gentlemen, you have X, which is the paranormal board. The paranormal board on 4chan consists of almost anything in the paranormal umbrella. It comes down to flat earth even. You can go all the way to UFOs being caught on tape. You can go all the way down to ghosts molesting you in your sleep. You can get down to Casper being a serial killer. And ultimately, you can go all the way down to the Grifter. Anything spooky in the world of the internet, 4chan's X board has you covered. Now, this came around one fateful day, ladies and gentlemen, all the way back when a user known as the Solipsist posted a 4chan thread, a 4chan X-Files case. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to read that case together. This is X-Files case number 2411742, the thread of the 4chan case file. Solipsist had posted something and said, "I wish I had never seen it. Fuck. I seriously feel disturbed, like it ruined something deep down within my soul. I'll never be the same. Fuck." To which anonymous posters replied, "Damn, does everyone have a link to the rapid shit of it?" Rapid shit meaning Rapid Share, a file service that I believe is defunct now. "I've been wanting to see it for a long time, but I can't find it anywhere. My friends who watched it, though, were never the same again." To which the solipsist responds, "Trust me, you don't want to see it. I hope that isn't you, Vic." And then everyone else said, "Fuck you, OP. I had almost forgotten about that shit. Thanks. I guess I won't be sleeping tonight." It seemed that some people had seen this video as well, and it was definitely eliciting some weird responses from those around it. More anonymous posters mentioned it wasn't snuff or anything, like that apparently just some really weird audio-visual thing with something moving in the background that created this really unnerving feeling. People reported getting sick, having nightmares. Apparently some even killed themselves, but I don't know if anyone can confirm that. It was really weird though. I can confirm none of those things happened to me. I might have nightmares, but it wasn't from the Grifter. The worst part... I'd rather not talk about it. Let me just say that it was the worst 2 minutes of my life. I'd rather fap to Three Guys, One Hammer 10,000 times, which is a snuff film, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I believe it was recorded in Russia where people just stuck screwdrivers into one poor soul. Before I ever watched that shit again. Worst mindfuck ever. No, that wasn't the right one. The one that I saw last year was hard to describe. There was this dude in the background this whole time. Apparently he was the Grifter. And a bunch of shit going on in the front, like a sink full of maggots or something. And the paint on the walls was literally melting, peeling off, and falling. The whole thing reminded me of the movie Begotten, but on DMT and 1,000 times I assume worse. Truly a nightmarish scene, very real in color, super dark and grainy, very fucked up. The rest I can't remember, and I don't want to. So it seemed like at the time that night, everyone was kind of really playing around, the solipsis was involved. I'm pretty sure some of these were alternate accounts that were coming around and basically creating and puffing up this creepypasta or this spooky story that night to grandiose endeavors. Now, to get the full effect of this, we have to watch the Grifter tape on our own terms. One that we already have on the Deep Web Browsing episode. For those of you who haven't seen it, you probably have to check out the last Deep Web Browsing episode that I recorded last week. We looked at the Grifter tape, and it was a weird situation, let me tell you that much. Now, the Grifter tape, from what I've seen, it never really sparked any illicit responses from me personally. I actually found the tape to be a pretty bad deep web art project, if I really had to put that in terms. I've seen art projects that were far weirder from it. For those of you who don't really know about the video, I'll give you a really short synopsis of what we had seen. There's multiple different claims that the original video existed, but we never got to see it. It was created by a user on YouTube, simply known as JoJacob666. Unfortunately, the video that they made about the Grifter does not exist anymore. It's just a video that will not be showcased, ladies and gentlemen, because the channel, and I assume the video around it, was taken down due to some form of YouTube's community guideline issue. But another tape exists called the Grifter Video Reel, which was actually the same one we had seen on the Deep Web Browsing episode. It seems like the only surviving real footage of the Grifter exists in this way, shape, or form. Can anyone vet and verify this is the original one? I assume it's probably the creator of the story, but that we'll get to a little bit later. As far as I can tell, this might as well just be the original Grifter video because there really doesn't exist any other copy to cross-reference with. Now, the original video basically sparked a long shot of people walking down, of one individual walking down a hallway, which was pretty grainy. It was definitely shot with some weird camera. In between the entire walk down the corridor type cinematography, there was bouts of screamer footage, I guess you could say, weird, scary footages that were tossed in, one that we had analyzed pretty heavily in the Deep Web Browsing episode. Alongside that, there was the biggest bombshell in the entire scene where you had a video of a baby. You had a picture of a baby. You had you then after the baby picked up an axe or whatever of the sort, and all the things you sort of had to piece together in your head. It was clearly violent. It was clearly intended to show the death of this baby or some form of torture, which would definitely spark some off-color responses from those who watched it. The actual ending of it was definitely just the phrase we had read earlier on. The video itself was nothing, again, too special. It's not too terribly long, about a minute-ish, something, minute, 2 minutes. It is a video that is pretty lackluster if you've definitely been around watching these edgy art projects as long as I have. So, the Grifter video, while nothing is ultimately scary out of it, it is one of the most infamous creepypastas that exist. Now, because of this, the actual video itself, the idea of the Grifter, while in concept might seem like an interesting creepypasta, is one thing of great scorn when brought to the X message boards again. It essentially has become a method of trolling the boards at this point, so don't think if you go to the X board and start asking people about the Grifter tape you're going to get any nice responses. People will definitely laugh you all the way out of the internet if that is such as the case. Now, one of the reasons for this is that the original author, a solipsist, actually came out and claimed that none of it was real in the first place. In fact, if you look at archives from the thread anyways, which archives are the only surviving trace of this because, as you all know, 4chan, things do get taken out, but archives will exist as long as they're still supported in that way, shape, or form. In 2013, for example, at least one of the archives that we pulled out, 2014, in 2009, Solipsis says, I created the Grifter. The idea was based on the urban legend of Polybius, and the name came from me trying to remember the name of the creature that was in the Tales from the Dark Side episode, Seasons of Belief. The creature's name was the Grifter. There is not an actual Grifter video. You got your confirmation right there. I am also an administrator of 4chan's X Paranormal Facebook page, and the host of Strange Cinema. Over the years, I created the OC horror images that have been posted on your board and you've probably seen. So after a while, people definitely agreed that there was some form of bullshittery going on, and it sort of died off in its way, shape, or form. There were other threads that existed on 4chan, one notably on 2013, where it was Hi X. I recently started getting into creepypastas, and I heard of one called the Grifter, and apparently it has to do with X, so I was wondering if some of you can help me out with some information. They kept being bumped, and one actually responded with, "Don't do it, don't fucking do it, delete your thread right now." Another individual mentioned Satan Sphinx being the real deal, one we'll actually focus on in another episode because it is more interesting than this creepypasta, in my opinion. Then afterwards, people said, "You done goofed. If all you're going to do is warn me, then just give me the link to the video and leave. I don't care. All I want to know is what this is." And eventually, people were just hyping it up, all that nonsense. And then some people went out of their way to tell you that the Grifter isn't real, but it still creeps the hell out of them in some way, shape, or form. Going all the way down over here, you have people saying, "Just fucking Google it." Good advice indeed. And then you have the "you're beating a dead, non-existent horse." So people weren't exactly too kind to seeing this in any way, shape, or form entirely. Clearly the Grifter became too much for 4chan in ways to handle, and rightfully so. For a video that didn't exist, and a creepypasta that sort of pumped its way up to grandiose success, being nothing more real than anything else. This was completely faked out, and to an extent, that's sort of expected. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm surprised. Most creepypasta, in fact almost every creepypasta out there, is fake. For these things to work, they're like an internet campfire story. You have to put yourself into a state of disbelief, get rid of your skepticism for a little bit to enjoy the whole product firsthand. But the Grifter is one such product that ultimately doesn't really follow the hype that a lot of people sort of pump it up around in the community. Looking into the video, another further analysis I pulled off was more technical wise, where I looked at the video through a spectrogram. If you notice one of the deep web browsing videos, the Plague Doctor videos for example, if you take those raw videos, put them into a spectralizer software, you can actually see a point where you find actual snuff or death footage within the spectrogram analysis, images encoded into the audio pattern. The reason I did this for the Grifter was that the audio in the entire video was a little weird, at least from the copy that I had. I don't know what it is, but I'm more susceptible to this kind of stuff. In fact, I am going to be susceptible because the audio in the Grifter was definitely one where it raised some hairs on the back of my neck, and that's simply due to the fact that the audio in the tape was without a doubt designed and engineered to elicit that kind of a response. Something about clicking, all those deep rumbly noises sparks fear in almost anybody innately. So to an extent, putting it through all forms of spectrogram software, I wasn't able to find anything spooky beyond the fact that it was just a standard deep web browsing-esque video that you would find on the internet anywhere. A spooky art project, so to speak. If me listing the fact that the Grifter wasn't hated enough already, you had this lovely profile picture with "Holy fuck X. I just got an email. It has a video attached. Its name was the Grifter. I opened it, saw first 5 seconds, and closed it. I was really scared from all that fucking shit, with maggots and babies. But please tell me I'm not traumatized yet." To which the anonymous posters go out with the fact that, "For God's sake, it's not real. Stop posting this." And a whole skew of characters that reference the fact that this individual has lost all his brain cells. Other responses to people mentioning they saw the Grifter was, "It is probably the edgiest thing that they have ever seen," all the way down to individuals reporting it to the 4chan staff just due to it being a pretty trolly thread, if anything, ladies and gentlemen. It is not met with the best of responses, as you can ever tell. So, in the end, the legend of the Grifter goes from a video that sort of occurred. At a cursory glance, when I first saw this, I thought, maybe the creepypasta is short, maybe the video is interesting to look at, and while I'd never watched it back in the day, watching it last week on the Deep Web Browsing episode solidified the fact that some creepypastas aren't worth the hype that they're printed on, ladies and gentlemen. So, for this little return to creepypastas, it's a very short, quick return, I guess you could say, but in order to give this thing true justice, you have to look at it from the beginning, when it was first showcased on the 4chan X boards, to analyzing the video from our perspective, reanalyzing the video through all forms of technical analyses, and then looking into just what it turned out to amongst the community that it was birthed in. All the way down to the creepypasta community, and all the way right to your viewing pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you think about the Grifter creepypasta. Let me know what you think about this tape that we had watched, and let me know what you thought about this style of episode. I'm going to cover some more of these spooky videos and creepypastas with a more analytical light. I do have another hour something long Ben Majora's Mask ARG analysis, whatever you want to call it, coming up soon, ladies and gentlemen. So if you enjoyed this video, let me know what you think. I'm going to get out of your hair. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. This is me, Mutahar, and I am